Welcome to Castified. Today we're diving into a truly fascinating development from the mind of Jack Dorsey, Block CEO and Twitter co-founder.
Ah, yes.
It's called Bitchat, and it seems like it's far more than just another messaging app. This weekend project, as he called it, has really kicked off some conversations.
Yeah, big time. Across fintech, cybersecurity, even like global communication strategies, it touches a lot of bases.
So our goal for this deep dive is to really explore exactly how Bitchat manages to work without any traditional internet connection.
Yeah, that's the hook.
And what promises it holds, but also the maybe complex questions it raises, about privacy, security, resilience in places where networks are shaky or censored. It really feels like a groundbreaking approach. And we want to kind of uncover what makes it tick, what makes it so disruptive.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, so how exactly does Bitchat pull this off? This almost magical thing of sending messages, even Bitcoin, without cell towers or Wi-Fi.
Right. Sounds kind of sci-fi.
Imagine being totally off-grid or in a packed stadium, where the network's jammed, and still being able to communicate, maybe even transact. That's the core promise here.
Yeah.
It actually launched July 7th, 2025, and apparently within an hour of the iOS beta going live, it hit its 10,000 tester limit.
Wow. Just like that.
Which, that just screams that people are really hungry for these truly decentralized tools, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. What's truly revolutionary here is how it does it. It's creating this self-healing, decentralized network right between the devices themselves.
So my phone talks to your phone directly.
Exactly, using Bluetooth. And then your phone relays it to the next one and so on, like a digital bucket brigade almost.
Okay.
This mesh network idea, it massively extends the range beyond just one Bluetooth connection. They claim up to 300 meters potentially through multiple hops.
Right, multiple phones acting as relays. So for you listening, what does this actually mean day to day? Or maybe not day to day.
Well, it means communication. And like you said, even financial transactions could keep going in places with bad internet or under censorship regime.
Or emergencies. That seems huge. Infrastructure goes down.
Precisely. That's a key use case. It's built on a few core pillars, really.
Okay.
First, obviously, the offline communication. That's fundamental. It's all about that Bluetooth mesh.
No internet involved at the core.
None. Second, messages aren't just sent. They're really protected with end-to-end encryption. Standard stuff, but important. Curve 25519, AES GCM, basically scrambling it so only the intended recipient can read it.
Gotcha. Strong encryption.
Yep. Third, and this is interesting, it pushes privacy with what they call ephemeral identity and no tracking.
Ephemeral. So temporary.
Exactly. The insight here is Bitchat tries not to collect user data in the first place, rather than just encrypting it afterwards. No central servers logging stuff. You could auto-assign these temporary nicknames, like add a non plus some numbers.
So harder to tie back to a real person.
Yeah, that's the goal. And maybe the most disruptive part, offline Bitcoin transactions.
Okay, now that sounds complicated.
You can actually create and digitally sign a Bitcoin transaction completely offline on your phone.
Right.
Then that transaction data travels through this Bluetooth mesh network, hop by hop, until it finds a peer, another Bitchat user, who does have an internet connection.
Ah, okay. The bridge.
Exactly. That peer then broadcasts the transaction to the main Bitcoin network for everyone else. This store and forward idea. It's a genuinely significant innovation.
Because it decouples sending Bitcoin from needing internet right now, like a digital post office box.
You got it. A digital post office for offline financial transfers. Pretty cool.
And it's not just for iPhones, right? I saw something about Android.
Yeah, impressively fast. An Android version popped up on GitHub by @CalippiaT the very next day, July 8th.
Wow.
And it maintains 100% compatibility. So Android users can chat with iOS users on the mesh. It works kind of like old school IRC, remember that?
Oh yeah, join cold peace and stuff.
Exactly. #tag channel for groups, @name message for private chats. Simple commands.
And it even has that emergency wipe feature.
Right. A triple tap on the logo apparently clears all your data instantly for, sensitive situations.
Okay. That's quite the feature set for a weekend project.
Definitely more than a weekend went into the underlying concepts, though. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Bitchat's whole operation, it's really rooted in long-standing academic research, decentralized messaging systems.
Ah, so the ideas aren't brand new, just the implementation.
Sort of. Think about protocols like Matrix. They've always pushed for data sovereignty, scalability, flexibility. Bitchat is bringing those ideas directly onto the phones in our pockets using Bluetooth mesh as the transport.
That's fascinating. But okay, for someone like me, used to just connecting to Wi-Fi, how does this decentralized storage actually work? Like, where do the messages live if not on a server?
Good question. The core idea is replication. The history of messages isn't in one central place. It's copied across all the participating devices in that chat or channel.
All of them. So my phone has a copy of everything.
Pretty much, yeah.
Really?
Within that specific chat context, each device shares the load of maintaining this history, often visualized as an event graph.
An event graph.
Yeah, think of it like a timeline or a map of the conversation. This is key. No single point of failure. If your phone goes offline...
This chat continues for everyone else.
Right. And when you come back online, your phone talks to the others and catches up on anything it missed, seamlessly retrieves the history.
Okay, you mentioned this event graph. That sounds complex. How does that work visually?
Imagine it like dots and lines. Each message is a dot, a vertex, and lines or edges connect them, showing the relationship. Like, this message came after that one.
So it tracks the who said what when and in what order.
Exactly. It establishes the causal and temporal order. If your message B points back to my message A, it implies you wrote B after reading A. It keeps the conversation thread logical, even if messages arrive out of order over the mesh.
Okay, that makes sense. But what if two people type at the exact same time on different phones?
Yeah, concurrent rates. The event graph handles that too. If two devices send messages simultaneously, their local graphs might briefly diverge. They each have a slightly different recent history.
Like two different branches.
Kind of, yeah. Two separate causal chains for a moment. But as soon as those devices broadcast their new messages to each other over the mesh...
They sync back up.
Exactly. Their graphs merge these divergent chains back together. Everyone ends up with the same, consistent, shared history eventually. It's designed to be really resilient to that kind of network weirdness.
So it's a bit like people talking over each other in a real conversation, but then everyone figures out the order of who said what.
That's a decent analogy, yeah. The underlying system has different parts. An event handler for the graph, a transport module for sending and receiving, even retrying if needed.
Okay.
Storage to save the graph to your phone's disk periodically. And of course, the user interface, showing you the messages in the right order.
Sounds like there's some clever design choices in there.
There are things like idempotent updates, fancy term, but it just means if your phone accidentally receives the same message twice from different peers.
It doesn't mess things up.
Right, it processes it only once. Super important for reliability on a potentially noisy mesh network. It also ensures causal consistency messages always appear in the right order for you, even if they physically arrived late or out of sequence.
Like making sure you read the reply after the original message.
Precisely. And lastly, it aims for partition tolerance. If the network splits, say, a group gets separated, the nodes within each group can keep chatting amongst themselves.
Yeah, subchat, basically.
Yeah. And then when the network reconnects, their histories merge back together automatically. It's designed to be incredibly robust against network splits.
Wow, okay. That is a lot of intricate engineering. So stepping back from the tech for a second.
Yeah.
Beyond it being a cool gadget, why should you, the listener, really care about Bitchat? You mentioned financial resilience earlier. How could an app like this actually help in a crisis?
Right. Let's think bigger picture. Imagine a major cyber attack takes down banking systems, or a huge natural disaster knocks out the power grid and cell towers.
Okay, yeah, total communication breakdown.
In that scenario, a secure offline mesh network like Bitchat could theoretically become a vital backup channel. For critical messages, maybe even for essential transactions, it fits with concerns regulators have, like the EU's Digital Operational Resilience Act, DORA, which is all about making finance more robust.
So, a financial plan B.
Potentially, yeah. And it also touches on financial inclusion, people in areas with little or no internet. This could offer them a way to participate in digital transactions they were previously locked out of.
And beyond finance, I mean, the practical uses seem pretty compelling. I mentioned festivals, where cell service just dies.
Exactly. Music festivals, big sporting events, total network jam, or disaster zones, definitely. It could be a genuine lifeline for coordination when nothing else works.
Have we seen similar things used before?
We have, actually. Apps like BridgeFi, FireChat, they became quite prominent during protests, like in Hong Kong, allowed people to communicate when the state might be controlling or monitoring the regular internet.
Right, bypassing controls.
And for off-grid folks, hikers, adventurers, it offers connection without needing expensive satellite gear.
Yes.
It's probably not going to replace your WhatsApp or Signal for everyday chat.
It's more of a backup, a specific tool.
Exactly. An excellent, potentially essential backup or niche communication tool.
It really does feel like this decentralized model where devices help each other route information is gaining traction. You mentioned Apple's Find My network earlier.
Yeah, that's another example of using nearby devices opportunistically to relay small bits of data. It's a similar underlying principle.
Okay, so the potential seems huge.
Yeah.
But nothing's perfect. The sources must highlight challenges too, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are the big hurdles Bitchat or any mesh network like this faces?
Oh, definitely. Latency is a big one. Speed. It's not real time like we're used to. Messages have to physically hop from phone to phone.
So patience is required.
Very much so. Reliability can also be patchy, depending on how many people are around. Then you've got challenges like, how do you stop spam in a network designed for anonymity?
Good point.
Power consumption keeping Bluetooth on and relaying messages choose through your battery. And just getting enough people to actually use it and enable relaying so the network is dense enough to be useful. That's a classic network effect problem.
And you mentioned incentives earlier.
Right. If you try to pay people to relay messages, things get complicated fast.
Yeah, let's talk about that. This idea of senders paying a tiny fee, maybe in Bitcoin, and relayers earning micropayments. We've seen similar ideas before, right? Like the Helium network. How did that actually play out?
Yeah, Helium is, well, it's a case study. It tried to incentivize people to set up LoRaWAN hotspots for IoT devices by paying them in a crypto token, HNT.
Okay, sounds reasonable in theory.
In theory. But in practice, it revealed a lot of problems. The whole monetization thing kind of took over. People found ways to game the system, set up hotspots where there was no actual demand just to earn tokens.
So incentives to cheat.
Yeah. And the token itself became more of a speculative asset than something actually facilitating network use. Critics would argue that these kinds of systems can easily become, veiled pump and dumps if the financial incentive overshadows the actual utility.
Right. The focus shifts from building a useful network to just making money off the token.
Precisely. It's a really tough nut to crack, designing incentives that actually encourage useful behavior without creating perverse outcomes.
And this ties into the bigger debate around using crypto for payments in general, which Bitchat enables offline. Proponents talk about irreversibility, public verification, privacy through pseudonymity. But there are definitely downsides people point out, right?
Oh, absolutely. Critics raise some serious points. That pseudonymity. It can break down pretty easily if your wallet address ever gets linked to your real identity.
Like through an exchange or purchase.
Exactly. And irreversibility sounds good for censorship resistance, maybe, but it means zero consumer protection. Make a typo, sending Bitcoin, lose $1,000. Too bad. It's gone. No chargebacks, no help desk.
Ouch. Yeah, that's a big difference from traditional banking.
Huge. Critics also argue it can make illicit transactions easier or help circumvent regulators, though proponents would dispute the scale of that. And frankly, many argue that good old-fashioned cash is often more anonymous than Bitcoin, and regular banking offers protections crypto just doesn't have yet.
So putting all these challenges together, the technical limits, the incentive problems, the crypto debates, potential government responses, what does this mean for the dream of a truly decentralized, universally usable app like Bitchat?
It means realistically there are still major hurdles. Governments can try to block these things. They might ban the app or even disable features like Bluetooth sharing or Apple's AirDrop at a system level like we've seen China do.
Right. They can fight back.
And there's that paradox we touched on. The places that most need this tech areas with poor or censored internet are often the least likely to have the high density of users required for the mesh network to actually work well.
Ah, the density problem. You need lots of phones close together.
Yep. So this idea of a postal network on phones, it probably works best in cities, especially during a temporary blackout in a usually dense area, rather than consistently in sparse rural regions.
That makes sense. And from a cybersecurity perspective, for, say, a CISO at a bank looking at this?
It's definitely a double-edged sword. On the one hand, decentralization is good, right? Reduces single points of failure. But the Bluetooth mesh itself, it could be vulnerable, denial of service attacks, maybe Sybil attacks where one attacker creates tons of fake identities to overwhelm or manipulate the network.
Okay.
And think about regulations. How do you do mandatory transaction monitoring, anti-money laundering checks, KYC? When users have temporary anonymous-ish identities, it gets really complicated.
Yeah, compliance seems like a nightmare.
Plus, even just internally within an organization, if employees start using this, how do you maintain control? There's always the risk of insider threats using it to bypass normal security channels.
So despite the strong encryption it has built in, there's still a lot of security and regulatory groundwork needed if this were to become widespread, especially in regulated industries.
Absolutely. A lot of work remains to bridge that gap between the technical possibility and sort of mainstream compliant reality.
Well, this deep dive into Bitchat really does show us the bleeding edge, doesn't it? We're genuinely talking about a world where communication, maybe even payments, could bypass the infrastructure we rely on today, offering potentially incredible resilience and privacy.
That's a powerful vision.
But as we've definitely explored, the path forward is complex. It's full of challenges, technical limits like range, speed, battery life, social and economic hurdles like getting people to use it, figuring out incentives without breaking things, and that constant tension with regulation and security.
Lots of trade-offs.
So here's something to think about. In a future where maybe our communication networks become even more centralized or perhaps more vulnerable, how much value do you place on having access to a truly peer-to-peer connection, a potential lifeline? And what trade-offs would you be willing to accept to keep that option open? It's definitely a thought worth mulling over.